Good morning, YouTube. Welcome back to the Dolomites. Today we are heading to Cinque Torri, which is there. We got a 5 mile hike, easy hike, but we're heading through some tunnels. I really don't like tight spaces, and I got a big old bag, so it's gonna be difficult to film, but it's gonna be really cool. So hopefully I can take you along, do my best to film. Let's get going. The tunnels located beneath Mount Lagazuoi were constructed by Italian and Austro-Hungarian soldiers during World War I as part of a fierce battle for control over the region. The Italians in particular created an extensive network of trenches, galleries, and stairways by painstakingly carving into the mountain's rock to gain a strategic advantage. It's hard to fathom the terror these soldiers must have felt knowing their enemies were digging just on the other side of the rock. Today, these tunnels offer hikers incredible historical insight and stunning views of the Dolomites. Maybe just stay away from the edges and don't look down. Unless, of course, you're my wife. The hell are you doing?
Just a little ledge.
Just a little ledge. Unbelievable. That wasn't bad. It was slick. Almost fell, but that's pretty freaking cool.
Okay. Gotcha.
I can't imagine having to go up it. I can't imagine actually using these tunnels. Look at the view. Awesome. The rest of the hike down was a lot of the same. It was very rocky and very steep, but all of it was extremely manageable, and all the sketchiest spots had very well-established handholds, and there was never a point of the hike that didn't feel safe. Even with this big pack on my back, I was able to fit through all of the tunnels with relative ease, and as long as I went nice and slow, I didn't have any issues at all. At the bottom, it was pretty incredible to look back up and see the Refugio perched on top of the mountain and know that we had just traversed that entire way through the mountain. This was by far our easiest leg of the Alta Via 1. It was only 5.6 miles with only 1,100 feet of ascent. This part here is the highest portion of the ascent, and it tops out at just over 8,000 feet. It's also your last look back at Refugio Lagazuoi before you start your descent. But just because today was an easy day doesn't mean we didn't want to treat ourselves and have some delicious pastries and drinks on the patio of, well, I'm not even going to try and say it. Cheers. It was all downhill from here, which is very good news because those drinks were a lot stronger than they looked. But what an incredible view it is from here. Refugio Cinque Torri was one of the more rustic places that we stayed, but it was by far one of my favorites. The view from the room was incredible, and the food was some of the best we had our entire trip in Italy. Okay, so we've made it to Cinque Torri, and after a half a liter wine and a whole bunch of food, we're finally out to shoot sunset. We still have an entire hour until sunset, and I'm actually not going to shoot the Cinque Torri rock structures. They're beautiful and they're definitely impressive to stand in front of, but when I got here, that's not what made me love this place. I really loved these peaks behind me, and more specifically, I love the rolling hills, the trees, the birds chirping. It's really more the greenery that inspires me in this place. So as weird as it is to be in such a famous place and not shoot that iconic image, I have two compositions that I found that I really like. I have this one here, which has this gorgeous mountain range behind me. And then in the foreground, I have this really interesting rock that has 4 trees that are fairly evenly spaced sitting on top. So I've positioned them to the bottom left of the frame. And then on the bottom right, you can see off in the distance, there's this row of pine trees that has these massive rock outcroppings, and those are catching really nice light. So that's the bottom right of my frame. And then of course the top is just gonna be the peaks catching that last light and the beautiful clouds on top. I have a second composition set up because I don't know 100% where the sun is going to land and what the light's going to look like at sunset. So if it ends up being better in this direction, I have a secondary composition set up. So for now, let's just wait, see what the light does. We'll pick it up from there. Okay, so the conditions turned out to be exactly what I hoped for. All the clouds have worked their way over the peaks, and we're actually getting last light on top of the peaks at the same time the clouds are lighting up. So what I'm doing is I'm just doing a focus stacked exposure. I'm at 100 millimeters. I'm focusing once on the mountain peaks and then once on the trees in the foreground. And I'm at 1/5 of a second, f11 ISO 50. And this is just absolutely beautiful. Now the composition that I had originally set up on is getting nice light on the peaks, but there are no clouds. So I'm gonna save that one for the sunrise composition. Oh, and I told you so. It's lighting up, like I said. Now that snarky, albeit well-deserved comment was directed at my wife off camera, because as you're about to see, the light just shut off. It's almost like somebody flipped a switch. And as I was standing there, my wife told me, it's done, it's time to go inside. We've been out here for over an hour and she was ready to take a break. And I assured her, just wait, that light's coming back. And I didn't believe that for a second, but much to my surprise, I was right. This golden hour shot ended up being, for me, the shot of the evening. And it's funny because in the field, I was so badly hoping that those clouds would catch that nice pink color and give me that soft light that I was after. And that's exactly what I got here. And when I got the images home and I looked at them and removed the emotion of being there, it was the golden hour shot that impressed me the most and felt to me the best scene of the evening. But I'd love to know your thoughts, which of the two you prefer. Good morning, YouTube. Welcome back. This morning is glorious, and I'm very glad that I decided to save this composition for sunrise, because the most interesting cloud is just above the peaks, and I really like how there's this nice line of cloud and then texture coming all the way through the scene. And the composition this morning is very straightforward. We've got this lone pine sitting in the middle, and then we have these rolling green hills behind it. And then there's this beautiful line of pines in front of the peaks. So you have a lot of layers to the scene. The scene's gonna start just in front of that one pine, and then it's gonna be a vertical composition going up above the peaks. Now, I looked all day yesterday to find a composition where I could isolate that pine tree, and the only way I could find it was up on this hill. Now the problem was, as I moved left to right, I didn't like where that pine tree would land in the composition, and that's really the key part of the image to me. It seemed like the only way I could line it up was being in line with this pine tree. So I'm kind of fighting with the pine tree to get the right height, but also having the pine tree lined up in the center of the peaks. So this is kind of the compromise that I found, was sort of being in the tree on this rock to get a little bit more elevation. It's still 15 minutes before sunrise. The sun is rising on this side, so it's going to be hard to pick up on the video camera, but you can see the inside of the faces are already starting to catch a little bit of light, which is what I hoped. I made a comment yesterday that I don't know exactly where the sun's going to rise and set because I've never been here before. Now, I did use my phone to try and plan out, and that ended up working really well. But a lot of times you can't know for sure because there are different mountain ranges and things that obscure the sun. So it can be very difficult if you've never been to a place before to try and plan for sunrise. In our case, fortunately, it looks like it's going to work out in our favor. We're getting really nice light already. We're still 15 minutes before sunrise. And I'm already seeing a little bit of color up in those clouds. So I'm just going to wait a little bit. We'll get that image. Yeah, it looks focused. Okay, so it remains to be seen whether or not we're going to get more color over the peaks. I only have about a quarter of the image above the peaks anyway, because I knew that the top mass of clouds probably wasn't going to catch, but I was hopeful that the little bit just above the peaks would, and that's exactly what happened, fortunately. It pains me to see the whole sky on fire and not go shoot it, but this is a composition that I sat on yesterday all day. It caught my eye immediately, and it took me forever to find out how to make it work. So that the fact that I got the clouds exactly the way I needed, it would be a crime not to shoot it, because I think this is the most beautiful scene here. The sky is more spectacular over there, but that's not really what the composition's about. So getting that nice purple light up in the sky gives it just a little bit of drama, a little bit of dynamic energy, and then a little bit of light on the inside of those faces is going to be perfect. All I'm waiting for now is that first bit of light to start hitting the peaks and the trees, and I think we can call it a day and go get some coffee. So the sun's just starting to peek over. We're not going to get the light just skimming the tops of the trees. That's what I got last night. If that image comes out, I'll show you, but I don't think it will. I was hoping we would get the same thing this morning because the trees are facing that way. I was hoping it'd be a little more dramatic, but this is still beautiful because we're getting nice light. It's actually the opposite of what I thought it would be. We're getting a lot more light on the foreground than we are on the peaks behind it. So we're still getting that separation, and the light on the trees adds a lot more color to the scene. But I think it does detract a little bit from the peaks. So we'll see how these images look. And there's still just a tiny bit of warmth left in the sky. So I think this will be nice. I absolutely love this image. The placement of the tree I think is ideal, and the light that I got this morning could not have been better. However, it was the tones of the image and the light and the balance that I liked, and I felt like the color detracted from the image. I know a lot of you are going to disagree with me, but I think the black and white is a stronger image. Feel free to let me know how strongly you disagree in the comments. That is absolutely beautiful, but I have to say it's not at all what I thought was going to happen. The peaks are bare, the sun is fully up now, it's not obscured at all. And just the way the peaks are oriented, only tiny bits of them are catching light. And I had actually thought the sun was going to be a little bit more to the left and kind of catch more of that face. But instead, it's catching the entire left side of these trees, leaving the right side of the trees, and of course the right side of the hills in shadow. So it's actually beautiful, but it's not at all what I thought was going to happen. So it's a happy accident. There's nice texture in the clouds. Gosh, just a perfect morning. Okay, well that's going to do it for me today. What a perfect morning. I really lucked out with these conditions, both at sunset and sunrise. I think we're coming away with some really good images here, and it's very important because this might be one of the most beautiful places I've ever stayed. I know it's been kind of a long one. I included a lot of the hiking this morning, which I never do, but I wanted to do that for two reasons. One, I didn't want you to think I was a lazy bastard who just drove up here to shoot this. I had to work to get here. And two, this place is so beautiful. I want to make sure I share as much of it as I can. So let me know in the comments if you like a lot of the hiking and behind the scenes, because I've got a whole lot more of it. If you like that, I'll make sure to include it in future videos. But that's going to do it for me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. More importantly, I hope you enjoyed the images. Have a fantastic weekend. Get out there, make some images.